A bacteria resistant to most antibiotics is attacking locker rooms and gyms, and the Illinois legislature and the athletic community are recognizing the superbug scare. Andrew Siegel has more on a relatively unknown condition with potentially deadly consequences.
Shelby Hoff is feeling good now, but 2 years ago, it was a different story.
In the summer of 2005, I woke up one morning and my wrist was really swollen and looked like I had an egg in it.
At the time, Hoff was a 19-year-old personal trainer, and she went to see her doctor the next day. She was surprised with the diagnosis.
He took a brief look at it and told me it was gout. Now, a 19-year-old vegetarian athlete does not get gout, especially in her wrist.
Hoff took gout medication, but her condition didn't improve.
The next morning, I woke up again, and at this time it had spread halfway up my forearm. It eventually got up to about, past my elbow, and it had inflamed so much that my skin burst and shed like a snake.
So what did Hoff have? It's called methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, or MRSA. MRSA is a staph infection that can't be treated by typical antibiotics. More than 2 million Americans carry the MRSA bacteria, but it only becomes infectious when it enters the body through an opening in the skin.
The staph bacteria.
MRSA is a condition doctors often fail to catch. And according to Dr. Mark Dworkin, it's becoming a public health threat as cases spread.
Historically, it's been more of a problem with hospitals, occurring in patients who have been in the hospital for several days or more. It's been considered a hospital-acquired infection, but now we're seeing more of it in the community as well.
The new MRSA menace has been hitting athletes especially hard. Most cases have been traced back to poor hygiene in locker rooms and fitness centers. Athletes are particularly susceptible because they often have skin abrasions and are in close contact with one another.
It could be that someone is using the same equipment as someone who just exercised on it and they had shed the bacteria onto it and the other person then could pick it up.
Off. She believes she got her case of MRSA from lifting weights at the gym.
I never saw anyone clean up after themselves or clean off the sweat. There were hardly any spray bottles around to disinfect.
Cases of MRSA have hit gym goers and athletes at all levels, from high school to the pros. And for one college football player, it actually turned deadly. Now, trainers and coaches are taking notice. Last year, the athletic staff at Evanston Township High School even took a seminar on the topic.
We brought up MRSA and how it affects other communities. I mean, simple basketball players, having contact in the middle of practice and things like that, what to look for. They did a nice presentation, what the signs, what it looks like.
If you go to a doctor.
Athletic trainer Chad Harris says the school follows a protocol to avoid infection. It cleans water bottles and launders uniforms. Even the trainer's room is covered.
The tables, countertops, all that stuff is washed down every single day in the evening. And then a lot of times before we get started in the afternoon, we have to do it as well, depending on what's used during the day.
That's in line with what doctors suggest.
Hygiene is the best way to minimize the risk, and that is things like, washing uniforms regularly, not sharing towels. It is recommended that after each use, that materials such as weight benches and so on should be cleaned.
But Hoosh Koshman says a simple cleansing isn't enough. His company's product destroys MRSA bacteria by converting oxygen to ozone. Koshman says that's the best way to protect athletes.
Even if they use the chemical to wipe it down, they might have missed the spot and so on, and that could be very easily contracted.
Koshman says athletic administrators don't understand the gravity of the MRSA risk. If they did, he says, they'd use a system like his to ensure there's no chance of infection.
It's a life and death scenario, and what we are talking about and what we do is basically it becomes a preventive maintenance.
Are you happy now?
Awareness is key. Janine Thomas contracted MRSA in her ankle in 2001. She says too few people, from doctors to trainers to public health officials, are well informed about MRSA.
Knowledge and awareness still is very low about this disease. I don't see state and county officials really being proactive about it.
Like Hoff, Thomas had a doctor who was unfamiliar with MRSA, and she ended up paying the price.
My surgeon had never seen a case of it, so they had me on the wrong antibiotic for 6 days. And my temperature went to 104, and I went into multiple organ failure.
Bedridden for 5 months afterward, Thomas felt isolated. So she started the MRSA Survivors Network, a support and advocacy group.
You find a lot of anger, and you work through it with them, that they know somebody that else has had it, and then they can talk to about it.
Hoff says Thomas and her group have helped her cope with the aftermath of MRSA.
Just, the physical and psychological effects of having MRSA and being near death was, it's scary, and it's nice to have someone who understands that.
Thomas is now lobbying for a bill that would make Illinois the first state to require that hospitals institute a MRSA control program. Legislators hope it will curb the number of MRSA cases here, which reached 11,000 in 2006, up more than 25% in just 2 years. In the meantime, Hoff has advice for other trainers and athletes on how to stop MRSA's spread.
First, you want to educate your clients or your student athletes to be aware of what MRSA is and how to prevent it, and and to notice their body. If they notice anything out of the ordinary, to get it checked out.
When Hoff temporarily lost the use of her hand, she had to rethink her plans of being a massage therapist. But after her misdiagnosis, she realized she had a new calling. She's now a nursing student, with hopes of helping others recognize the signs. Andrew Siegel, Medill reports.